The English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote the poem Dejection and Ode in 1802. It is a poem which expresses a sad mood. In other words, Dejection and Ode is a poem of pessimism and disillusionment. The poet Coleridge expressed his sense of failure and unproductivity in a number of poems like Youth and Age, Work Without Hope, and Dejection and Ode. The poem Dejection and Ode is the greatest of his poems of despair and depression. In this poem, the poet laments the loss of his poetic abilities. He feels that he is no longer as imaginative as he was before. Dejection and Ode, in its original form, was addressed to Coleridge's friend Wordsworth, but during a personal quarrel, references related to the poet William Wordsworth were taken out and Sarah was substituted in place of Wordsworth. It is, however, clear that the poet had Wordsworth in his mind when he wrote this poem. Coleridge, on seeing the old moon in the arms of the new, fears that it portends stormy weather. As he is contemplating on the superstition associated with the phenomena, the storm begins to blow. Coleridge feels that the sounds of the wind and storm, which used to inspire him in the past, might give their usual impetus to his soul on that night, and might stir up his sense of frustration and even intensify it. Next, Coleridge gives expression to the grief from which he is suffering. It is such a dark and dismal sorrow that it finds no expression in words, tears, or sighs. The poet feels that nature cannot cure him of his pessimism and melancholy, as he is no longer stirred to his depths by nature. In the third stanza of the poem Dejection and Ode, Coleridge says that he believes that the sources of poetic inspiration lie within the human mind or the human soul. Thus, when the mind is paralyzed, nature cannot inspire the poet. Then, the poet Coleridge goes on to challenge the popular notion of the philosophy of William Wordsworth. He says that it is we ourselves who invest nature with life, soul, beauty, or gloominess. It is we who attribute feelings and emotions to inanimate nature. Nature is lifeless. It has neither intellect nor soul. Further, he believes that the poetic inspiration is an echo of the poet's soul. In the fifth stanza of the poem Dejection and Ode, the poet Coleridge defines poetic inspiration as a light, a glory, a fair luminous mist, which is not only beautiful in itself, but which enables the poets to create beauty. It is joy, exaltation. From it flows all fine arts like music, poetry, and painting, which captivates the ear or the eye. Next, referring to his past, Coleridge says that he used to feel inspired and hopeful then, in spite of difficulties and hardships. Now, however, misfortunes overpower him. He, however, does not lament so much the loss of mirth and joy as the loss of his poetic faculty. He feels that he is drifting more and more towards the study of metaphysics and fears that by and by this new interest would kill the poet in him, though by nature he is a poet rather than a philosopher. In the seventh stanza of the poem Dejection and Ode, Coleridge finds escape from the torturing and tormenting thoughts of despair by turning to the wind that is raving outside. The wind, so it appears to him, is imitating tragic human sounds. At times it seems to imitate the sound of a defeated army retreating in a disorderly manner. Like an actor, the wind imitates perfectly the sounds of trampled, wounded, and shivering soldiers of the defeated army. After a pause, the wind seems to be imitating the cries of a small child who has lost her way in a lonely forest situated near her home. In the eighth stanza, the poet says that though it is midnight, he has little inclination to go to bed. However, he prays that his beloved may never have to keep awake at night. Likewise, he prays that she may enjoy eternal happiness and that thoughts of sorrow or dejection may never invade her heart. The poet describes the outburst of a storm after a calm evening and laments his own torpor and inability to be moved by the awful grandeur of the night. His own mood is frail and broken. The fountains of life fail within him. He lacks that emanation from soul necessary for the appreciation of nature. The poet Coleridge looks back upon the imaginative days of his youth when joy and hope had arisen naturally in his heart. But pain and grief have taken all these away. Abstruse research has superseded the imaginative faculty. The wind's expression of human cries only re-echoes his afflictions. His one comfort is to pray that those whom he loves may not share such unrest. On a winding note, it can be said that the subject of Coleridge's poem is depressing. Yet, at the same time, this ode is one of the poet's triumphs. This poem was one of Coleridge's chief glories because he found expression of some unheard of pains and agonies of the mind. When Coleridge wrote the poem Dejection and Ode, he was already estranged from his friend Wordsworth, who used to exercise a very healthy influence on him. The lively spirits of the poet Coleridge were failing now. Life had nothing to offer him, and nature had no joy for him. But the poet had not yet lost his gift of expression. He fitted that gift to his depressed mind, to his depressed and bleak state of mind, and produced a great poem. Well, that's all for today. Dejection and Ode is an incredibly beautiful and thought-provoking poem. Do let me know if you would like a more detailed line-by-line analysis of this ode. Do leave a comment if you want a paraphrase of this poem. Signing off for now. Bye.